Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Anyway, we were just talking. Go over that again about the information about the judge.
Who are you playing this for?
Huh?
Well, here we're recording this for. Just to have?
Yeah, and then I can go over and maybe I can think of some things. And it's just to prove that we talk on it. I need to start, like I keep saying, we should have. I'm right. I should have recorded to prove that every single day I was keeping in contact with you in Afghanistan because I was worried about your safety, and I knew the situation. But anyway, we were just talking about Charles Dyer and his appeal, and anyway, just
The
talk.
the argument I had with him?
Yeah, just go over that one more time.
Okay, the argument started like this, okay? Because Charles has been given not all the information when it comes to the way the rules of the court work, and when your attorney in your trial does not object to or does not do any pre-trial objections, which is done usually through a motion or some sort of depositions, all these different pre-trial steps before a trial are very important. And when your attorney doesn't do these right, or when during actual trial, during trial level, when the attorney does not object to the prosecution's violations of what's going on during the trial, then there's no record. And when there's no record, that means that if you end up getting convicted, if there's no record that was made, then you cannot appeal with it. And the appeal only looks at then the errors of the judge.
Right, and I remember even when you were up here and I was talking to him, you guys were butting heads. He wanted to go one way with his prosecutorial misconduct, and he was going.
Prosecutorial misconduct could have been good if he would have filed prosecutorial misconduct by his Albert Hawk, filing that during his January trial. Prosecutorial misconduct claims are very good in appeal level, but only if you've made a record. And the only way the record can be made is by your attorney making an objection during the trial or during pre-trial motions that were filed or what have you. If the prosecutor and the judge are caught not following their rules of their own court or the rules of the prosecutor's rules, and your attorney knows these rules because that's what he's supposed to be an expert in, and by objecting or by filing an answer to these pre-trial motions that the judge ends up ruling on, it's always back to the judge, okay? Even though he had a trial, the pre-trial stuff, it's up to the judge to decide what witnesses are going to be allowed to call, what evidence is going to be allowed to be shown to the jury. It's all up to the judge to rule on these motions. And when your judge rules incorrectly, then your attorney is supposed to file another motion to answer his incorrect ruling. And when your judge continues to rule incorrectly, then that's when you're getting ready for your appeal, because it looks like, you still have to go to trial, and when your judge has not allowed certain witnesses to be called, and he's still violating his own rules of his own courtroom that are well, put out there for people to learn, rules of evidence, rules of the court, judicial rules, all these different rule books, and you end up losing, because that's probably what's going to happen if you're dealing with a corrupt judge. Then you're getting yourself ready for your appeal, and that's what you bring up on the appeal level, and you bring up the errors of the judge. It's called misdirection of the judge.
You can do that in an appeal. You can do that, right?
Right. No, you can't. That's what you need to bring up in the appeal, is because if your attorney did not object during the trial at the prosecutor's violations, that means there's no record. Like if your attorney,
well, won't they just dismiss your case? What will they do from there then? What would they do?
Well, that's up to the appeal judges. The appeal judge's responsibility is only to correct the errors that were made during your trial. And if the errors are made by your prosecutor, that means you have to have a record of it, okay? And there's always a record made by the judge because everything is done pre-trial, and the judge has to rule. And so there's already records made of the judge's ruling.
But think about this.
Evidence being entered or witnesses being called. And just like with Charles Dyer's situation, there were motions that were filed by Hawk pre-trial about his witnesses, but the judge in an in-chambers discussion claimed that Hawk did not file this motion or his discovery of his witnesses. and there really was a motion filed. So right there, that's an error of the judge by violating Charles Dyer's due process and his rights to be able to be heard, which is also part of having witnesses to be called and evidence to be presented to the jury. So when you see that this error that was made by, yes, the prosecutor and the judge, since Hawk did not get up and answer to this motion pre-trial, and during the trial, these witnesses were not called, but he didn't object or he didn't bring this to the court's attention, there's no record to go after the prosecutor. Okay, there's no record.
Right, and they did that on purpose so that there would be no record, so that if you ever did try to appeal.
But when you start studying the case of the pre-trial paperwork that was filed by Hawk, then I discovered that there really was an exhibit list that was filed, just like Hawk was supposed to. Okay, and it was filed on April the 4th of 2012. Okay, the trial I believe started April 14th or 15th of 2012. But that day, the very first day of trial, the in-chambers discussion that was done on record, you see the judge acting like he did not have a witness list for Charles, but there really was one filed. Okay, it was filed on April the 4th. And it was signed off by the judge, and it was hand walked from Hawk over to the judge. So the judge was basically lying on record, acting like he is unaware of this witness list that that Hawk never filed, and that Hawk was not going to have the rights to call. He was not going to have the rights to call any witnesses that he wanted to, and that he was not going to have the. No, I'm sorry. He said he's not going to have the privilege of calling any witness that he wants.
And so, in this conversation, Charles started cussing at you first about how he wanted to go after he got pissed off, basically. He wanted to go after the prosecution, and he's the one that.
Well, because I've been trying to get Charles to do prosecutorial misconduct for a long time before, but I knew that if his attorney did not file prosecutorial misconduct when he was supposed to file it, then he loses his chance to bring it up on appeal level. Yes. But he can still do a prosecutorial misconduct lawsuit with the Bar Association. He can still say ineffective counsel and file a prosecutorial misconduct lawsuit. But to bring it up on the appeal level, the judges they might give their opinion about it, but they're not going to correct any errors made on the prosecutor because there's no record. You have to have a record.
You know what the biggest difference is between us and the support team around his family is that we've consistently tried to do things to get him out of fucking prison. They haven't done a fucking thing except try to make him feel comfortable with staying in prison and keep him in prison. Everything they've done is about getting him into a prison cell. It has nothing to do. And we go hire the U.S. Observer, and even at that, Nancy Genovese, do you have those text messages where she's threatening even me and you about how Ed Snook's going to get us? How does she all of a sudden know Ed Snook? Do you have those text messages?
Yeah, I have them. I even sent them to Charles. I sent them to his mother. I sent them to the whole family so they could see what kind of support these people, what their true colors are. And I have those text messages. She's saying that Ed Snook's going to come after me, and she can't wait. I bet I'm squirming in my seat.
Have you made it public? Have you put it out on YouTube?
It's disgusting.
Yeah. Have you put it out on YouTube? Have you made it public?
No, not yet. No, I haven't. I haven't made it public yet.
Did you ever record the conversation? There's so much shit out there we have to get out. Did you ever record the recording or the conversation where even Amy Dyer is saying, "Hey, Chris, you better back off, or Ed Snook's going to take this."
I have that.
You have that?
Yes, I do.
Can you put it out there?
Yeah, but my computer, every time I try to do anything like that, it turns off or it gets frozen. And
how strange.
I'm having a really hard. I think I've got a really bad virus when it comes to any kind of YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's really my computer's fixing to fry. But I have all those conversations. I put them in a Dropbox. Gary Hunt even has them.
So Gary Hunt has all that shit?
Has them.
Gary Hunt has all that stuff?
Yeah, I can give you access to the Dropbox if you want the password, and you can go in there and I think I've done that before already, but I have, a lot of the stuff has already been transferred to a lot of different people, so if something happens to me, then it's in the hands of other people, so
yeah,
it's been spread all over the place. E-Dogs, I think, has copies of this stuff. I even believe Dan John, I don't want to say that name, and a friend of mine named Dan has copies of it. Gary Hunt has copies of it.
I've got a lot of your stuff too. I just don't know how to. I gotta get my ass in gear and figure out how to make a decent YouTube video since I've never done this.
You and I can get together and do the same thing like we did the last one because I still haven't. I'm trying to get that OSBI conversation uploaded and I can do it because every time I try it gets 3-4 minutes into saving it, and then my computer shuts down.
And this shit is so time consuming. You know, I'm active duty. I got a PT. I got to go to school, and on top of that, I got to continue to at least show support for you, and you know, and make sure that everybody understands that everything you've said and done is 110% legit. That's the goal now. And you know,
with Charles though, he has been told that I'm doing things that are hurting him.
Well, of course.
And it's not true at all. And unfortunately, I was right when it came to everything I was trying to get at Mrs. Dyer and Charles. Back November of 2011, I sent him all this information on how critical it was for him to file prosecutorial misconduct. And if Hawk doesn't do this for him, then Hawk is a bad guy. Hawk is not on his side. And I was trying to get him to do the ineffective counsel. I was trying to get Hawk to do the ineffective counsel against Hammond.
Well, let me ask you something. Let me ask something that's really on my mind. Why does this Al song keep concentrating on whether the child was, whether you said she was raped or wasn't raped, and why are they bringing this up now? What are they trying to do there? What's going on there?
Disinformation, because the last video that I put up has a lot of facts that, per Charles sent me a timeline, asked me to make sure that I get all these details. Because I always say the truth is in the details. That's my new thing in life. You can't, with something like this, especially corruption, you can't just skim over the surface and generalize. You have to look in the details. That's where you're going to find a lot of the truth to expose what's really going on. And so when I put that video out there, per Charles, I followed his timeline exactly what he wanted me to say, and that's when I started realizing on my own, I never really knew if the child would happen to the child. I knew Charles didn't do anything to the child, because if he did, all this lies and all this corruption would not even be necessary.
Right.
So when you find out all the lies, you see the district attorney lying about the DNA, and they're withholding this forensic computer investigation that has all these details of the mother, Valerie, viewing these pornography websites the same exact day and the evening prior to when she actually took her child in for her forensic video interview that was done on the child. But she's all of a sudden, in the history of this entire computer, never before, even when Charles was around, you know, this forensic computer report, this is through the OSBI, which has the ability and the technology to go in and pull everything that's any kind of history ever on this computer that's been done. There was never any kind of traces of any even adult pornography ever on this computer hard drive until Valerie had the computer and the child was with Charles. And so I just brought up, Charles showed me this report to verify what he was telling me was true, and I looked at the report. Sure enough, the dates that were logged by the OSBI on this forensic investigation shows when the very first trace of any kind of adult pornography, there was no child pornography ever found, but the adult pornography was found, and it was during the time frame that Valerie was at home, the child was gone, and we know that it was Valerie who did these searches because of the day that the email was sent, that she sent the same email to Amanda, Charles' current girlfriend, and Charles, laughing and mocking at them, saying, "Oh, you know, ha ha ha, just wait, what's going to happen to you?" Like basically letting them know that something was about to happen to Charles. And so the more you look into this forensic report, you start seeing that when the child returned home, and we can verify this by the school records and by the time frame that was under oath testimony that was given by Jan, Amanda, Charles, all of them, and even Valerie admits that the child was back with her during this time frame. And then you see on the computer, you see 1,083 images of child pornography that were viewed the day of and the evening before. Okay, that Valerie had to take her daughter in for this interview. So Valerie lies and tells the state that she caught Charles viewing child pornography on this computer. She takes the hard drive to the county sheriff. The hard drive sits in the county sheriff's office for almost a year and a half without ever being even looked at. During the very, very first trial, they brought up this allegation of this charge. It was just a charge of him viewing child pornography. So the jury heard that. There was never any proof. You know. Let's talk about the facts of the case, because I always like to mention facts. But this is the facts. These are the facts.
Well, I know, but listen, this is the one thing that you told me that really sealed the deal for me. You said that they offered him a deal, and he wouldn't take any pedophile. He has. That's why I love this dude. In my mind, I have the total respect. In my mind, he's a badass motherfucker. He really is, because he has never once folded or even bent underneath any type of pressure during this entire this whole situation. I mean, he's got Gene Poole offering him a deal, you know, to turn like these other people have, and actually work for them. He wouldn't go for it. He's had Ken Western, and he told me this himself. I should have recorded it, but he told me this himself when I talked to him, that, yeah, Ken Western did try to get him to turn and roll on you so that he could go after you and destroy you. And he didn't go for that. Then you have plea.
Then they had offered him a plea right before this last.
Exactly. Any child molester, anybody that's been in the situation he was in, would take the plea deal. He would not take the plea deal. I mean, that alone to me proves his fucking innocence, man. So
he only had to serve 8 more months, and then it would have been a 2-year sentence total. But he would have had to register himself a sex offender and then he, plead guilty, and then he would have had to attend all these sex offender,
classes, right?
All this, all these courses and classes, and then register himself, put a sign in his yard, the whole slander, and he probably would have,
when I talked to his mom when I was back in Afghanistan, we talked about because the biggest thing for me too is where was the investigation on the child? Whatever happened there? What was there? There was never really any investigation, and
that's what that LSBI report shows. That's why we've got to get that LSBI report out there, because it shows, and I believe Agent OSBI.
She even said the hymen was never fucking. If a grown man rapes a fucking little girl, 7-year-old little girl, there's going to be, he's going to just violently rapes her. I mean, come on. He might split her. He's obviously going to destroy the hymen. He's going to scar her insides, whatever. Nothing. So even Dyer says that. Nothing. There was none of that. No hymen, nothing. So.
Well, that's where the proof of another thing about Valerie that Charles wanted me to get out in this timeline that I did for him, because it shows the timeline, and there's the school records to back it up. It's not just speculation. That Valerie lied in court on the first trial and said that she did not send her daughter to school after the alleged cry out, when the child supposedly cried to her and said that her daddy did these things to her. That her front private area was all loose and torn open looking, that's what the mother claims, and that it was visibly noticeable that the child's private area was hanging open, is what she said, and basically torn up looking. Okay, so if that really happened, and if she really saw her daughter having this sort of physical trauma, and like you said, she's a 30-pound child, 250 pounds,
Well, the child said no the first time when asked. That's why they had mistrust.
Let me finish.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's no way that the mother would have been able to send her daughter to school that very next day, and the child attends school and not complain. Okay, so the mother, Valerie, lied on court record at first, claiming that the child was kept home, and that was a lie. And we can prove it by what Charles asked me to put out there for him on that one video, and we have the school records to back it up, showing that the child attended school the very next day, and she did not keep her child out of school until that following, I believe it was either a Thursday or Friday. So she alleged that the child was violently raped by the father, that she was able to see visible physical, abuse of the child's private area being completely torn up, and then she's going to send her child to school the next day and not even get the child examined.
Yeah.
These are the type of details that are absolute flat-out lies, that the more that I started learning the details of what happened with the child, and these people like Al are trying to say that I'm saying the child was not raped or whatever, honestly, now since I know the details a year and a half later, and I've read the court transcripts myself, and I've read through the OSBI, I mean, you can't get any more valid than an OSBI investigation. Okay, and
well, I was there when you were talking to the dude for like an hour and a half. I was there when you made that fucking recording, and you were talking to the guy.
Well, my point is that I've got the validation, so this Al song needs to just back off and realize that, you know what, the more that the details keep coming to surface, the more it looks like the child was coached, and it's hard to believe that anything the mother says has any credibility to it, because she's been known as a liar, and she's even told Charles on court record and in conversation that she'll do whatever, she'll lie and say whatever she has to say to keep him from any custody from their child.
Yeah, when was it that he even talks about this, that she actually came up to him after the trial and was pointing her finger in his chest or wherever and said, how does it feel to know that everybody thinks you fucked your own daughter, right? I mean, I wasn't there for that.
Yes.
When was this? When did she do that?
That was after the first trial, I believe, and he'd actually arrested Charles Dyer because that was breaking a protective order, and they tried to say that he broke the protective order, but when they actually, after they arrested him and had him in custody, they actually, he demanded that the video cameras be pulled, and they rewind and look back at the video, and then they actually see Valerie's the one that broke the protective order and started the whole confrontation right outside the courtroom. And so they did release him and let him go home.
Well, you know what else is just fascinating about this whole situation too is, a lot of people say, that it's not a conspiracy, that whatever they say, whatever. But the thing is, if you sit back and look at all the evidence, you can't help but to understand that's exactly what it is. And even when you look at these avatars, Kevron, he states in one of his posts that why the fuck would the White House want to help Charles? They're the ones responsible for putting him where he is. Basically, he says something to that effect.
Absolutely.
And I look at that and I'm like, who the fuck is this dude? For one, because if you look at all his comments, he sounds like a fucking Fed. He totally sounds like it's hard for me to imagine an FBI agent.
He's in a mental ward. I believe he's been convicted of pedophilia already on his own. I don't really know exactly his whole story, but he's this is what the FBI. We cannot forget that the FBI has hired. In 2009, I always like to remind people about this. That in 2009, the FBI, it was on ABC News. They hired, through the government, they gave them $22 million for a budget in 2009 to hire 15,000 paid informants,
right,
work undercover, and to infiltrate the Patriot community and to do this type of thing. So these people, when you see these people hiding behind these fake avatars and all they do on there is attack me right now in this situation and try to discredit.
It's their job to create confusion.
And what's interesting is that you never see them go after the support group. You never ever see talk about Nancy.
Right.
Never see them talk about. And if they're supposedly they're supporters of Charles Dyer. That's what they say anyway. But the only person they attack is me. They never attack Nancy. Never attack Darren. Never attack Amelia. Never attack Shane. Never attack the new one, Ron Cross. Never attack Sean. Okay, but they're always attacking us, me, you, E-Dogs, Iota, anyone that's with me and that has the truth.
Right.
Because I don't speculate. You never see Kevronista go after Nancy Genovese. Okay, you never see them go after. I mean, so this is one of those interesting situations where I've learned personally that you have to look at what people are not saying. When you look at what that's not happening, that's when you're going to find truth. And this is part of a psychological war, it's psyops, and you don't ever hear about Nancy's family being threatened. Death threats coming. You never hear about Darren Wilburn getting on it and saying, "Guess what happened to me? I had death threats to my house, or I had, these people."
Well. Now that you brought that up, and now that we're helping coach these people, that's probably what they'll start doing. You know what I'm saying? To make themselves.
They'll get on the lie and say, but this whole 2 year, the fight for Charles. Now we're at the post-conviction level. Okay, and they've died down on their attacking because they have him exactly where they want him. They got him.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why the online harassment's not nearly as for like a year ago. It was just outrageous. You say one thing about, I put a video up, I get attacked from all different directions constantly.
Well, yeah, when I was in Afghanistan and I would monitor your Facebook and just observe. I mean, there was one time with this Kiara Smith and this Albert Rivero that you had like.
Who were they really though?
Yeah, I know.
Really, other people need to know. Kiara Smith is really Amelia, aka Amy Foxwell.
Yeah.
And this and the Alberto Rivera is really Darren Wilburn, and they even admit it in their own online.
Wilburn, he even admits that he's soul pull. He was really. It's like you could totally tell what happened here with him at least. He's being really nice to you in that one video. He wants something from you. He wants Charles. That's his job. He wants to get you to give up Charles, and he's even playing this empathy card. And they really act like they're your friend. But the minute they can't get to you, the minute that they can't control you, it's even what happened with me and Ed, because Ed's turned into a fucking asshole towards me, cussing me out. Is then they get mean and they get nastier and nastier to this point, and you can see the hatred, you can see the anger in their posts, to where they're not even being logical. They just, you're a whore, you're a prostitute, you should burn in hell, just on and on and on, and it's.
And to have me arrested. It's funny when they threaten to have me arrested if I don't back off and leave them alone. I mean, Shane Sheffield and Darren Wilburn have both called for my arrest.
Right.
Okay, if you're a real patriot and you're supporting somebody else, and I mean, these days, this is not the way patriots.
And what's ironic is now Ed Snook is talking about you being arrested, for Christ's sake. My last phone call with him.
If Charles was given the truth by his family, if Charles was given the real hardcore facts, no matter how how it looks, okay, but if his mother or if his friend Monica or if his girlfriend Amanda would ever be real and explain exactly what's going on out here, then Charles, I think, would have a clue and he would get it. Okay, but these people, the family has trusted these people, so Charles is not getting the truth. He's getting, his mother has never called him up and said, oh, Debbie's doing a beautiful job out here. She's made a petition for you. We're helping her. No, she doesn't say anything about it. She says nothing. Okay, but she'll get on and she'll give props and she'll praise this family that call her Mama Dyer and her new family, her extended family now. And all these people do is slander and discredit and try to do everything they can to keep this stuff from going viral. And so that's how sad the situation has become. You know, it's just plainly obvious on who's doing what. And if we can ever get through to Charles and he would understand what the truth is out here, because here he is again, he's back in the American Resistance Movement's hands. And the American Resistance Movement is ran by Nancy and Genovese, a.k.a. Mystic Star, and also by Shane Sheffield, and also by all these people, Rick Light. All these people are connected. And American Resistance Movement is a Fed platform to attract and to draw people like Charles in, and to control information and to keep people that are.
And you know what's interesting? Is the main reason why E-Dog's even got involved in this is because he was told a lie by Rick Light. He went to investigate that.
About me.
Yeah, exactly, about you, how you stole money. Just like Nancy Genovese said that you stole money from me or from whoever, and just absolute fabricated bullshit. And so he goes to investigate.
She even said that she even told Charles in one of my recordings I need to put out there, because Charles corrects it. She was telling people that I stole Charles's money, $2,000 off of Charles, and then I just dumped him off in Texas and left him there without any money, and that I stole from him. And that's an absolute lie. And Charles, he and I even have a conversation. I recorded it, and you can even hear Charles say that when he told Nancy that wasn't true, he wrote her a letter. He told Rick Light that these things are not true. Stop saying them about Deborah, and that Deborah actually helped me. I actually gave him some of my own money, like $500-600 of my own. I actually helped him. So for these people to continue after the fact, after they've been corrected by Charles, and they still continue to spread the same disinformation, the same outright lie to discredit me, to confuse people, that shows you that these people are bad. Okay?
Well,
it's not hard to figure out.
Yeah.
And his mother, for some reason, just cannot swallow these facts. And even he told his own mother that these things are lies. But you never hear Mrs. Dyer get on these shows or do anything to help fix these lies about me. She just lets them roll. She rolls with them. She says nothing.
And E-Dogs went to investigate you for Rick Light, thinking you were bad. Realized Rick Light was full of shit. And at that point, he realized Rick Light was that makes Rick Light puts Rick Light in a very bad spotlight. And I don't know the rest. And of course, that changed everything for him. And he actually became.
E-Dog's left. He was an admin on RAM from day one. RAM is a well-regulated American militia. That's the #1 platform of all the militias in the country when it comes to the internet. And it's another platform, like I said, about the American Resistance Movement. But it is ran by Rick Light. He claims to be the founder of it. And E-Dogs has been a admin over RAM from like the very, very beginning. I remember his avatar from way back when, because it's the pit bull avatar. And so when E-Dog came to me very fairly, and I was very happy that finally somebody came to me. Finally, someone was asking me questions, because it's never happened before. There's a lie that starts, people don't investigate, they just roll with it.
Right.
And I'm becoming a thief. And nobody's given me the fairness of what each of us deserve, and that's the right to have questions asked and to investigate before you start accusing someone, especially someone who's trying to help.
Right.
And so E-Dog came to me very fairly, very openly, and he was very receptive, and he was very, very skeptical at first, which again I understood, and I was very, very understanding on how skeptical he was, because he was hearing all the same bullshit. But then I started showing him the truth, and I told him to do a test. I'm like, you know what, E-Dog? Because he was wanting to go back to RAM, have an admin meeting with all the admins in RAM, and get us to work together, okay? And he really wanted that. He's like, okay, I know that you're not a thief. We've got the documentation to show you didn't steal any money. I'm going to take this information, give me the link to your Dollars for Dyer link. I'm going to post it on RAM and watch how much support I can generate for Charles now, since we've got this cleared up. And I'm like, E-Dog, it's not going to work. You're going to take the link back. It's going to get deleted. He's like, oh, no. I've been an admin for 4 years. years. No, they respect me. I'm part of the team. Let me just go back to Rick and have a meeting, and I'll explain to him that this is a big miscommunication, that you didn't steal any money, and we're going to get the support Charles needs. And so I'm like, okay, try. I guarantee that it's not going to work.
But who's the one that takes down the Dollars for Dyer page so that no one can fucking donate? Who does that? Nancy, she's the one.
Well, the whole thing got taken down. The whole Dollars for Dyer got taken down, and my petition was deleted from their site. Actually, Mrs. Dyer and Nancy Genovese together contacted the website that I had the Dollars for Dyer connected to, and they only use PayPal. So the whole disinformation with that was Nancy was trying, and Rick and all the whole team was trying to tell everyone, don't donate. It doesn't go to Mrs. Dyer's PayPal account. It's a lie. Don't donate. Deborah Swan scamming. It doesn't go to her PayPal. It doesn't go to her PayPal. It doesn't go to Mrs. Dyer. I mean, lie. And I contacted Amy and I contacted Mrs. Dyer, and they knew. And I even had a test of $10, around $10. I put it in, and Mrs. Dyer even came back, and this is all through chat sessions. This is what I showed. This is where I showed e-dogs, the proof of this chat session between me and Mrs. Dyer, showing this is the very beginning stages of the Dollars for Dyer. Okay, because they had to have $15,000 raised in 1 month to hire Hawk. Okay, to hire the attorney. I didn't know who the attorney was at the time, but I was trying to help raise money to help get Charles' new attorney hired, and Mrs. Dyer needed $15,000. And so I came up with the Dollars for Dyer. We had 1 month from September the 5th to October the 5th, and to raise $15,000. And I thought, what a great way to do it! If we can get everyone to pledge on the same day, to put in $1 on the same day, everyone pledge. Okay, on this day we're going to drop $1 in each. If 2 people do it, it's embarrassing, but if 200 people do it, the momentum could have started, and we could have really had a money bomb for Charles. Okay, and we would have raised more than $15,000 by the end of the month. Okay, so at that time, RAM had 7,000 members, and Nancy had about 950. So we have about 8,000 members total. And if half of those people did it, at least half of them, and I guarantee if Rick would have said, hey guys, everyone on RAM, let's support our brother Charles.
Well, what's so strange to me is these people have, I mean, even Darren talks about having MTV connections. To this day, I came along, someone who had nothing to do with this case. I could clearly see what needed to be. I'm the only one that I'm aware of to this day that's actually done.
You put more money into this than they've ever raised in almost 3 years.
Exactly. So are they that incapable, or are they that stupid, or why did I have to come up with the U.S. Observer who got compromised?
But hold on. Don't misguide people who are going to hear this conversation. No, that's their job, okay? They didn't want to be able, they do just a little tiny bit to make it appear as if they're helping
right.
themselves, that they stop any viral support. So don't act like, are they stupid? No, they know exactly what they're doing. Their job is to not allow any viral support to happen. That's why they destroyed the Dollars for Dyer, because it could have worked.
Right.
Okay, if we had that, if they would have put the link, and if they would have told their members, hey, this is a trustworthy site, if Mrs. Dyer would have stepped forward and not listened to the bullshit, and I even have the proof, like I was trying to say, to show when I set up the PayPal account, it went right to Mrs. Quilt42@yahoo.com. I mean, that's the only way you can set up the PayPal account. It was never set to anybody else except Mrs. Dyer. Her and Amy had the password to the email J4P netzero.com. They had the password was free J4P, and the email was to Mrs. Quilt42@yahoo.com. It was set up just the way I said it was going to be set up. There was never any alternate email, and they knew it. Mrs. Dyer, I told her the information. I even have it on chat, sending her the password. She even thanked me for setting it up to her PayPal. She thanked me, and then she gets on, and she doesn't say anything publicly, and she listens to the slander, and she listens to the lies, and the whole thing. And then she started believing Nancy Genovese that I was stealing from her for some reason, and then the whole thing got shut down. And that's exactly what they wanted to happen. And so I was able to raise $53, and only 10 of that was mine, because I kept every week.
Well, I mean, you know what's strange? Once I came on board, and you told me they were listening to conversations. This is way back in Afghanistan. My first inclination was to raise money online, so I went to GoFundMe, and even that shit got stopped. I had $1,000, and even that, something happened to that. To this day, I've never looked into it because I was so busy. But even that got fucking stopped somehow. I got an email saying that, and then the money was returned. I don't even know. I should check my credit card account because I don't even know if that money was returned. I don't know what happened.
But okay, get that money back, Chris. You need it.
Well, I know, and that's why I just said fuck it, I'll pay, because I realized anything we tried to do was going to be stopped somehow, you know, and that's why I ended up going to Ed, and I offered the first. He said he'd do it for 5, and then of course later on he wanted the remaining 5, and then he wanted another 3 from Amy, and then and then he took another 10,000 from Janet Dyer. And I know what they're going to say. They're going to say that you screwed everything up. That you know, because of you, they couldn't get next to the people they were supposed to. Well, if that's the case, you know, you'd at least be able to do something for Janet Dyer. I mean, what did you do with her 10,000? You didn't do anything. You haven't done anything with my 10,000.
That wasn't the case. You don't misguide people by thinking that was nothing the case. Everything I gave those people they could have used. And
well, listen to the previous recordings. They even talk about how great you are and how wonderful you are and how they're going to enjoy meeting you in Oklahoma. And one piece of evidence you had can get Charles out of fucking prison, for Christ's sake.
Chris, hang on. Are you leaving, Robert? Robert wants to leave, okay.
Hi everyone, Deborah Swan here. I just wanted to take time real quick to recap some of the things that I discussed in this video with active soldier Christopher Mortensen, who is a very dedicated supporter of Charles Dyer and who's been working with me, like I showed, gosh, since March of 2012. The critical area that I want you guys to think about is to think about the fact that if Sergeant Charles Dyer would have been not silenced, and if he would still be out this entire time, sending his message like he was doing when he got targeted by the government, if he had been able to continue this, just think of the how much support he would be able to generate, and how much new minds he'd be able to, and hearts and souls he would have been able to touch, especially with everything going on right now, as we all are witnessing with the National Defense Authorization Act that's been passed, the gun control ban that's coming down. This is all about the same message Charles Dyer was spreading, and this is the critical reason why the government had to silence him, because he probably would have been able to generate some viral, resistance of some sort, which is what this country needs at this time, very seriously. But since he was targeted, that is very important for you to remember. So when you start looking at, on our level, what's been going on with the support group and why he's at where he's at today, the details of why and how he got there, it's how the government does this to people. You have to be able to control someone's support so it doesn't go viral. You have to be able to, if anyone that comes in, like myself or these other military members or these other very dedicated patriots who have stepped in to help assist me with this, the real supporters of Charles Dyer, who are only putting out facts, no speculations, and have studied this stuff and are trying to help with his, legal areas. When you see these people working with the prosecution, working with the defense, the ones who found the criminal defense attorney, you see these people slandering you and lying about you. That's how they've done this to get Charles where he's at. So people like yourself won't listen to me and they're trying to discredit me, and they're trying to make me out to be stupid. Okay? I've never, this entire time, wanted to intentionally make anyone like Mrs. Dyer feel stupid, and that's what you're going to hear her say. She claims that I make her feel stupid. She claims that I know everything, and that if I don't want to work with her or her support team, that Deborah Swan is very arrogant, and that I scream and yell at her. All these things are not true. Okay, I know I feel for Mrs. Dyer, but unfortunately, she's still in the enemy's hands, and this is how they've gotten her son where he's at. Okay, the actions of who is doing what shows this, and I'm not trying to make anyone feel stupid. This is a very, very sophisticated situation of disinformation agents, of COINTELPRO, of complete infiltration and sabotaging of Charles Dyer's support, and that's how he's gotten and why he's where he's at today. Not because of me. Okay, I've done nothing to hurt this man. I don't know of anyone else who would actually call an FBI agent, a sheriff, a district attorney, the OSBI, the prosecutor who did his last trial, and record these conversations. The reason why I record people is because when you're dealing with corruption at this level, if you don't have hardcore proof, such as recordings, then no one's going to ever believe you. Charles was aware of many times I recorded him, and the only reason why I recorded him is if I ever would have needed to put out some information between he and I, what we've discussed, to prove myself, because I've had such a hard time with the credibility of my place in this with Charles. And it's been very, very unfair, but I've taken a very difficult role, and I'm not giving up. So yes, I'm having to put out some recordings of Charles and myself's conversation, only to prove critical facts for you guys to hear, and to help discredit the lies that are going on around about me that are absolutely fabricated bullshit, total lies. Okay? And I know that I know those of you out there who have been paying attention and watching this, I know that you know the truth on who's doing what. Okay? And I'm not hurting Charles, I never have. I've done only things to help this man, genuinely. And unfortunately, the family wants to see me as someone who's hurting Charles, because it's easier for them. It's easier for Mrs. Dyer to go along and to believe that her support team is that she's trusted this whole time is really on her side, because if she ever had to stop and reflect and be honest with herself and Charles, I don't think Mrs. Dyer is, that's her situation. She's got to figure out within herself. Okay? But if you look at the actions, I'm not trying to make Miss Dyer feel stupid. If Miss Dyer ever contacted me again and wanted to talk to me, I'd be more than willing to talk to her very, very respectfully. I always have. I send everything to her before I post it. She'll be getting a copy of this too. I sent her a copy of the petition that has almost 5,000 signatures that she still has not signed for Charles. Her support team doesn't want to sign it. Why? Because I started it. Okay, this is all about, at this point, ego. And it's really sad. And it's sad that the families trusted these people. And it's just, it's very sad, because these people have not done anything to help Charles. Yeah, they'll do a little research here. They call the family Mama Dyer, Papa Dyer, but these people, they have lied, flat out lied. They say that I threaten them. I don't do any of that stuff. There's no proof of anything that they claim that I've done. Nothing. Challenge these people to show you proof. Challenge Mrs. Dyer. If you call Mrs. Dyer up and say, hey, Mrs. Dyer, what's up with Deborah Swan? Listen to what she has to say, and then ask her, honestly, do you have any proof of this? And then understand the psychological war that we're dealing with here for Sergeant Charles Dyer. Okay? If I was wrong about what the information I try to share with the family to help Charles's legal stuff, if I was wrong, then I would not get all this opposition. If I was wrong, all this attention would not be on me, because they'd want it to roll. They'd want they'd want Charles to get this wrong information. But I have been studying this stuff, and I'm right. Okay? My facts are right. That's why there's such an effort to slander me and to discredit me and to keep me from being heard, excuse me, by the public. So please keep these critical facts in mind, and contact me. I'll put my information again at the end of this video. And if any of you want to help and step forward, I have some great people, all active and former military, and we're forming a coalition to help continue to keep the momentum and the attention on Charles, and to get this truth out for him. And this is critical for the history of, this is historical stuff we're dealing with. And it feels really good to be on the right side of this fight for Charles Dyer. And everyone who has acted in any way against him will be exposed. Everything is going to be exposed. Okay? And that, I pray every day that the family will join us and recognize who is doing what. I don't mean to make anyone feel stupid. I'm not trying to call anyone for being stupid. I'm just trying to do the right thing, and that's help expose and spread the truth for Sergeant Charles Dyer. And that's what this is about. So peace out, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.